Hello everybody, my name is Dratnos, and today we're going to take a look at an incredible record-setting plus 23 run of WoW's newest dungeon, Ecodome Aldani, completed by Holy Method in the first weekend of this season's Mythic Dungeon International. All talents and builds used by the players can be found via Raider.io in the description below. The dungeon, as usual, starts with a huge pull. Pretty much every enemy before the first boss, including one Ravenous Destroyer, which is the most dangerous and highest HP enemy in this pull, so it's the primary target they focus down with cooldowns and Bloodlust. All players make sure to stay close to the pull, even though their group is mostly ranged, to keep enemies charging close and staying in all of the AoE abilities. Once this massive pull is taken care of, Holy Method are ready to fight the first boss, but it's guarded by two more Ravenous Destroyers. This is a skip that might look very familiar to seasoned dungeon runners, but notice now is not playing a Night Elf, so he doesn't have access to Shadow Meld. He's actually using a new item that was added to the game this patch, the Umbral Essentia potion, to accomplish the same effect. For the Azakar encounter, Holy Method again focus on staying close to the boss most of the time to keep enemies jumping in melee and easily controlled, running away only to drop the toxic regurgitation puddles. During the Devour casts, they don't panic or overcommit to killing the ads. They do need to die before they reach the boss, but crowd control effects, especially Ursul's Vortex, do a lot of the work here and allow them to keep doing efficient damage. On the way out, Holy Method again need to skip the Ravenous Destroyers. This time it's Gingy using Turtle and Feign Death. Once the rest of the group is past these enemies, Whippy goes on a very similar mission to let them skip the first overcharged Sentinel they encounter, using Shadow Meld as the group runs by. Cutting down on the number of overcharged Sentinels fought during the dungeon is a key objective for Holy Method, as those enemies are among the most dangerous foes in the Ecodome. Even without a Sentinel, this pull is still very dangerous, as Gingy uses Misdirection to add even more mobs to the massive set they've already pulled. Much of the damage these enemies do is avoidable, so everyone has to watch their feet, but some is unavoidable in the form of group-wide AoE, but also random targeted damage that Whippy has to make sure to triage quickly, and heavy tank damage that now has to layer his defensives to carefully mitigate. Another Sentinel needs skipping, this one done once again by Whippy as Shadow Meld comes off cooldown and then is immediately pressed. After a slightly smaller pull than the last one, Holy Method chain pull into yet more, including the one unskippable Sentinel of the Ecodome. This enemy does massive tank damage, and once its shield is broken, it also deals heavy damage to random players and fills the ground with nasty puddles as well. This damage is what claims Holy Method's only death of the entire run, showing just how lethal this enemy is. They therefore have to make sure to focus it down, then pull even more trash as their cooldowns recover. This route gets Holy Method quite a large chunk of the enemy forces they need in this area, which means they need less trash later on than most of the other teams competing in the MDI did. But it means they don't get to use Bloodlust for a few minutes until they finally get the boss pulled at around the 14-minute mark. This is one of the situations where you have to look at the total dungeon timer to understand how much pressure you're under to press your Bloodlust on cooldown. This dungeon has a 31-minute timer, which means in theory, if you pressed Lust right at the start, never died, and hit it on cooldown, you could get 4 Bloodlusts, but you'd have very little say on when they'd be used. It's much more realistic to play for 3 Bloodlusts, and that also gives you a great deal of flexibility to have it be off cooldown without missing a use. Note that things change a great deal in dungeons which have, say, 34 or 35-minute timers, as fitting in all 4 Bloodlusts becomes more realistic, but does require you to press it basically on cooldown. This boss in particular is rough, as the Binding Javelins deal absurd damage if not killed quickly, but at Keystone level 23, they have a huge amount of health as well. Luckily, Holy Method have 2 players that can immune the effect, Gingy with Turtle and Kush with Anti-Magic Shell, and the ability has predictable targeting. Each phase it will target all 4 non-tank players in 2 sets of 2, so half of the casts, they know who it's going on in advance, and Whippy can prepare hots on those players. The intermissions are also very dangerous. Holy Method makes sure to avoid cleaving anyone, and each person carefully moves to make sure that their line goes through the boss as it goes off without cleaving anyone else. Now all that stands between Holy Method and a world record is the final section of the dungeon, but there are some very dangerous enemies inhabiting the desert here. Holy Method set up their first pull by carefully choosing several of the least dangerous ones, especially targeting as many Wastes creepers as possible. These enemies give a lot of enemy forces count, while only having one truly deadly ability, Gloom Bite, which blasts the tank and places a huge healing absorb on them. Luckily, this ability has a 2.5 second cast time, which is not interruptible, but it is outrangeable if the tank can step more than 8 yards away. Now expertly does exactly this to avoid almost all of the danger from these enemies, while the rest of the group focuses on keeping the ritualists interrupted. Holy Method opt to skip most of the packed speakers in this area, but they do need to kill the final 2 to activate the last boss. These ethereals have a lot of health and will routinely summon adds that need to be quickly killed to prevent a massive shield building up on the packed speaker, while also dealing heavy group-wide damage and having a massive health pool to chew through. Holy Method makes sure to focus the first down before pulling the second. Once both of the packed speakers are dead, they pick up the final enemies they need to fill out their enemy forces bar: creepers, phase blades, and one ritualist that had been left in a freezing trap earlier. Then take all of them onto the last boss, where they use their third and final bloodlust. Soulscribe is a relatively simple encounter, but don't let its simplicity fool you. At this key level, it is still very deadly, especially when the trash is still alive at the start of the pull. Holy Method have practiced the dungeon enough times, though, to have the dance mastered, and expertly pick up the echoes of their fates each time the boss shatters them with its various abilities. As the boss goes down, Holy Method have almost 2 full minutes left on the timer, an impressive amount to spare for such a difficult dungeon. Make sure to tune in next weekend to watch Group B and see which teams will join Holy Method and Anti-Clockwise in the global finals. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in Azeroth.